And I believe we are live now. I'm just going to fill the air for a couple of seconds till I see the live button. And there it is. Welcome to Ring the Bell podcast number 18. We are back from our week's break last week to cover last weekend's action and have a little look forward to next weekend. I'm here with my co-host Nathan. How are you, bro?
I'm fine, mate. How are you?
I am very good, man. It's raining heavily here. But I've got a nice hot ginger chicken sort of stir fry that I'm going to cook after we finish the podcast. I got a warm cup of tea. I'm all gravy. I'm all gravy. How are you?
I'm fine. I've got me Fosters and me water.
Nice, nice. That's a proper British breakfast, that is.
The time it's 10 to 7 in the morning.
Right, let's start where nobody really wants to start and nobody even really wants to talk about, but we're going to do it. Tyson Fury, Sefa Safari. Did you enjoy this fight,
I thought it was funny. I thought it was hilarious.
It was amusing, wasn't it? Did you see the Instagram posts and you know, the meme going around about
what was
Tyson
that?
Fury? Someone had basically edited the Sefa Safari to be like 2 foot tall and put a bit.
Oh yeah, sorry, I did see it. Yeah. Oh dear.
Oh, that was funny.
He built up with the fight good, where he grabbed him.
It was hilarious, but I knew at that point that it wasn't. I mean, we all knew it wasn't a competitive fight, but to be fair, people have been very harsh to Tyson Fury about this performance. I think, you know, the fact that he's in shape and back in the ring is a good thing. It wasn't against a good opponent, but David Haye didn't fight anyone decent when he came back after 2 or 3 years out. And so we've kind of got to let him have, you know, one more shitty fight and then we can start judging him and bashing him.
You know what?
He still has
we
good
need to
movement.
This man weighed 28 stone.
Exactly.
The fact that he lost the weight,
yeah, exactly.
It's a miracle.
Exactly. I mean, it wasn't fun to watch, though. Everybody can agree on that. But
it was hilarious.
It's good to see. It was hilarious, but it wasn't good. Do you know? You know, it wasn't exciting at all. So yeah, it was amusing. Sefa Safari just didn't want to fight, and why would you against a guy that much bigger than you?
When you're a Cruz, right? I mean, at the end of the day, people got to understand Tyson will probably have 2 more fights like this, then he'll have a slight step up.
Yeah,
it's going to be a good year, 15 months before he gets a world title shot, I believe. Or
longer than that. I think probably a year before he's fighting competitively and about 2 years before a title, because he's still fat, he's still rusty, he's got a way to go, but he will get back, and it's good to see him back.
The thing with him, and I'm going to be honest about this, he's still my favourite heavyweight of them all, but I have to be honest, since he's been out of retirement, he's stagnated, he's got worse. And Joshua's got better. I think at this point, Joshua's just a level above him, you could say. Would you be on? Not a level above him, but Joshua's well ahead of him now. Would you agree?
Yeah, but they're on different trajectories right now, for sure. But I think
Fury will get better, yeah.
I think Fury, it's not that he'll get better. I think Fury's just looking to get back to what he was. And he will, and if he can do that, even 90% of it, he'll probably still be pretty hard competition for any of the other guys.
He'll get back to the, you know, to be that as good as he was. I think he'll be good, but I don't think he'll be quite as good as he was.
We'll see. We'll see. I know he's blown up crazy before in the past, and it wasn't as.
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things. You can't really afford too many of these crappy fights. Maybe 1 or 2 more, like you say, and then he's got to start moving up to bigger and better things.
Fans have to understand that after nearly 3 years out of the ring, you can't expect miracles.
No.
You know, just look at that. Fury's in a different stage to David Haye. David Haye was basically a rusty tin man.
Yeah, at least David Haye was physically, you know, his body was fit for those comeback fights, whereas Fury still looks like he's got 1 or 2, well, 2 stone more to lose. So it's interesting, but I'm excited to see him back. I hope it's a better fight next time, but who knows. Another great fight on this card. This was quite a good card, actually, despite that fight, was the Nathan Gorman-Sean Turner fight. Nathan Gorman looks a dangerous dude.
He looked brilliant. Yeah.
He's very clever, very crafty for his age. He fights on the inside very well, and he does stuff that you'd expect a 30-year-old heavyweight to be doing in there. He's very, very mature above his years.
Definitely.
So yeah, he got the stoppage win over Sean Turner, 3rd round. Good stoppage, but just a good performance, really. He dominated, and he never looked like losing a round, and it always looked like it was going to be a stoppage at some point. So it was a good win. Zelfa Barrett came back with a win against a guy who'd had 43 losses, so it's not much to talk about. Lyndon Arthur, 10-0 guy, beat Charles Adamu, who's 30-9. Wasn't a great fight, but it was a good win for Lyndon Arthur. I want to see him step up into much tougher fights now. And then obviously we had the main event, and I felt that this was a weird fight. I personally had Terry Flanagan winning this fight against Maurice Hooker. It was close. I agreed with the 115, 113, I think. Yeah, that was one of the judges gave that to Terry Flanagan. I think they should have a rematch. I don't think Maurice Hooker won this fight convincingly. I think was some of the scorecards 117, 111 to Hooker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he won that by that many rounds.
He's fucking dirty. Don't forget, this is the guy that got a draw with Darley's parent and blamed the fact they had a teardrop on the draw.
Yeah, I remember that. I just feel like even if Hooker won the fight, it was close, and I feel like those scorecards are way out. I usually don't agree with Frank Warren when he complains about judges, but he is probably right on this one. I think they should complain to the WBO and get the same thing that Groves got out of the Froch fight, a rematch. I think Flanagan beats Hooker.
He does, but the problem is this puts him in a shitty position now, don't it? Really?
It doesn't. It doesn't. It's a shit loss, but if he can get the rematch and avenge it, then it's no problem. But yeah, it's not ideal. It's pretty harsh because it's taken away his 0. He was an undefeated fighter, and I feel like he didn't really lose this fight. If he lost it was still close.
To be honest, when we look at this man's career, he had it on easy street, really, didn't he? When you look at it, he got given a belt by injury and he defended it, and he was a paper champion, wasn't he? At lightweight, he was a good fighter, but he was a paper champion.
Yeah, I agree. He Terry Flanagan's had an odd career, a lot of wins, but nobody really knows who any of those are.
A world champion who nobody knows, who casuals don't even know who this guy is.
I agree. It's a shame. It is a shame. I do hope he gets the rematch though, because he fought well. I don't think he deserved to lose his 0. I think a draw would have been a probable fair result. It wouldn't have been as unfair, but to take someone's 0 away when they are the home fighter and it looks like they've done enough to win, to me it boggles the mind, especially the 117, 111 isn't. I'll have to watch the fight again because I didn't score it.
It's James DeGale against Calvin Truex all over again, isn't it? I think.
In some ways, yes, but I think James DeGale kind of, on reflection, he did lose that first fight. But I'll have to go and watch this Terry Flanagan Hooker fight again and score it. But for me, I felt like Terry did enough. I could be wrong, but I heard that was the general consensus, particularly obviously from the British fans. I don't know if Hooker really has any fans, but maybe he does, and that they say he won. Who knows? Who knows? One other decent-ish fight on this card was James Metcalf for the super welterweight title, international superweight title, against Aito Nieto. And he won that quite convincingly. I'd like to see James Metcalf step up into some tougher challenges now. And then obviously one last fight on the card of any note was Mark Heffron, a middleweight who beat Andrew Robinson. A good, solid win, stoppage in the 6th round. But what I would say is Mark Heffron is deluded. Good on him. He's moving up through the ranks, but he started to call out Billy Joe Saunders in an IFL interview after the fight, and it just felt a bit like, I know you're hyped, but come on, man, come on, chill out. You're not on that level yet. You're not ready for that. So It's just one of those ones. Interesting card. Shame about the Fury fight. Shame about the judging of the Flanagan fight. But not a bad night of boxing. Just a bit of a sour taste left on it by some of the stuff that went on. Shall we talk about the Leo Santa Cruz Abner Mares card?
Yeah.
Now, I only watched 2 fights on this card. Jamel Charlo, Austin Trout, Leo Santa Cruz, Abner Mares. And I have to say, they both went exactly how I sort of expected. Leo Santa Cruz won his rematch, and probably a little bit more convincingly than the first from the first fight. You know, I wouldn't want to see a third match now. Let's put it that way. Leo Santa Cruz has well and truly beaten Abner Mares. Good fight. I'd advise people to go and watch it if they didn't, but it's kind of exactly what was expected. A good Mexican scrap with Santa Cruz just being a bit too tall and rangy. Slightly superior boxer maybe, but not by a lot. Good scrap. You know, every time they fight, it would be good to watch, but I don't want to watch them fight again, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I
was amazed they did a rematch anyway, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it was to make the WBA sort of unified. So in some ways, it makes sense. I do like that the WBA are trying to do that. But yeah, let's see who Leo Santa Cruz fights next. Everybody just wants to see the Frampton rematch, the trilogy. I mean, that's the truth of it. You can't leave it at 1-1. A draw is like kissing your sister, as they say in America, and nobody wants that. So, yeah, Jamel Charlo versus Austin Trout. Now, you told me you didn't catch this one because it was shitty. The stream was shit quality or something. I watched it. It's exactly what was expected, really. Jamel Charlo was better than Austin Trout. It was a very good win. One of the judges. Oh, yeah. I mean, that was the really weird thing about the fight is one of the judges scored it 113-113, right? And one of the other judges scored it 118-108. How can you have that wider? So it was a majority decision for Jamel Charlo. I don't know how Austin Trout could have possibly got a 113 because he was knocked down in round 3 and round 9. Jamel Charlo pretty convincingly won this fight for me. I agree with the 118-108, maybe 116-110, something like that would be a fair score. But a draw, he's got that Canelo judge in his pocket or something. Like, that's fucking crazy, man. How'd you get a draw when you get knocked down twice and you don't? Yeah, anyway, it was a good enough fight. Good win for Jamel Charlo. But I tell you what, I still don't rate him, man. I don't think he's all that. I think he's got a lot of heart. He's got a lot of grit. He trains hard. He knows what it is to be a professional boxer because of his brother, but he does not have the skill set of his brother. He's a bit wild. His front foot is his footwork's not great.
I wish him and his brother would stop fighting the same bloody people. I wish Trout would stop being given title shots, for fuck's sake. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that probably will be Austin Trout's last shot. He's got he's got 5 defeats now, I believe. Let me check that. Yeah, 5 defeats, 1 by knockout. I think he's probably done. He's lost to Hurd, Charlo, both Charlos. Maybe he has a few more, fights as a gatekeeper. Maybe he fights, I don't know, someone like Kell Brook or an Amir Khan. Yeah, that's possible, isn't it? It's possible, not impossible. So, yeah, interesting card. Didn't watch the rest of it. The rest of it seems shit anyway, reading it on BoxRec here. So
some breaking news is just coming. Eddie Hearn has signed Dimitri Bivol.
That's not surprising in some ways.
Okay.
It's a great signing. It's a great signing. But it's not. I'm not shocked because if you remember, Callum Johnson is signed to fight Bivol. He's the mandatory.
Oh,
by the IBF. No, someone pulled out basically like 6 people pulled out of wanting to fight Bivol, and it fell all the way to number 15, which was Callum Johnson.
That was Batavia, mate.
Oh,
Batavia. Sorry.
yeah, you're right. Well, either way, sorry, they're both fucking Middle Eastern and they both begin with B. So I get them mixed up. Either way, it's great news for his light heavyweights. It's, you know, it's a massive signing. He's obviously going to be on American shows, I imagine, on the DAZN platform. It's that's a great piece of breaking news, man. Interesting stuff. So yeah, he signed Bivol. I mean, you'd expect if Callum Johnson beats George Groves that he might even throw Callum Johnson up to 175 to fight him. So
to the Wolves, you mean?
I think Callum Smith could probably he could hold his own at 175.
Oh, he could, yeah.
But yeah, it's a big money fight. It's interesting. It's interesting. Good on Eddie Hearn. That is a statement of intent. That's a big fighter to sign. So then this brings us on to our final card that really happened that we haven't talked about yet. Jeff Horn, Terence Crawford. Did you see it?
I did, yeah. Well and truly outgunned, didn't he?
It was a fucking beatdown. I kind of expected this. Terence is just too good, too fast, too slippery, too skillful. Jeff Horn's size didn't really work in his advantage. It just made him look like the slower, clumsy guy in there. And the stoppage came in the 9th round. I think you actually predicted 7, 8, and 9 for a stoppage. So you got that one pretty spot on. Good win for Terence Crawford. Can't really read too much into it until Jeff Horn goes off and maybe beats another top name, because we just don't know what that win means. But he's got the WBO WBO welterweight title now, so unifications can be made, and that is interesting. Obviously, there's Spence out there, there's Furman out there, but I wouldn't tell Furman to take this fight now. He needs a comeback fight before he gets in with the likes of Crawford. So
easy fight.
Jose Pedraza had a good win, a unanimous decision against Antonio Moran. Pedraza's the guy who beat Stephen Smith in Monaco as well, actually, as a little Monaco. What?
And lost to Tank Davis as well.
Yes, he did indeed. He wasn't so good in that fight. I think he sort of froze up in the big stage in America, from what I remember of watching that fight. Tank Davis is very good anyway, but Pedraza wasn't as good as he was in the Smith fight in that fight. Maxim Dadashev, he beat Darlis Perez, another comeback name from earlier. He beat Darlis Perez, which kind of signals the end for Darlis Perez, because, you know, when you're losing to guys that are 10-0, it's probably over for you. You know what I mean? Like, it was a TKO. I don't know what's going on with this, actually. It says it was a TKO, but it also has the time of a stoppage. And then it also has the scorecards as well for the judges. So I don't really understand how you can stop someone and get the scorecards read as well. That doesn't make sense to me, but oh well, I'm sure there's some explanation for it. Jose Benavidez, he had a win against Frank Rojas. Benavidez is all right, you know. He knocked out this guy in 1 round. So this Frank Rojas guy was 22-0, but he was from Venezuela. We talked about him on the last show we did, and every fight he's had has not been televised, and none of them are names we know. So that was always very likely. It was an okay stoppage, you know. If you were knocking out someone in the first round, it makes you question their level, really. And then the last fight of any note on the card was Shakur Stevenson. He moved to 7-0 with a stoppage of Alio Mesquita, who was 16-1. So it was actually a good step up for Shakur Stevenson. I rate him quite highly at featherweight. I enjoy watching him. He's got a good style. I think people should go and see that fight if they can find it somewhere. And that kind of concludes the action, but it doesn't conclude the podcast because we have some fucking crazy news to talk about. We're going to start with some funny news, and I'd like you to weigh in on it. David Haye has announced his retirement from boxing after last month's rematch defeat by Tony Bellew. Thank fuck for that. Yeah, I agree, man. Jesus Christ. We thought he'd retired 5 years ago or 4 years ago at this point now, and maybe he should have stayed retired. Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
But maybe, you know, what a way. We always talk about how to not tarnish your legacy. Look at Andre Ward and the way he retired. Look at Carl Froch and the way he retired. David Haye did exactly the wrong shit.
He did.
Came back.
The injuries.
The injuries are one thing, but the decisions as well. Coming back and having fights against nobodies. Coming back and fighting even when you're injured. Coming back and trying to fight someone who's got a lot of momentum when you have zero momentum. Made a lot of mistakes in the final years of his career, and sort of sadly he will be remembered more for those 2 losses to Tony Bellew,
which is sad, isn't it, really,
than he will for any of his great achievements, including unifying the... I mean, who even remembers him or talks about him unifying the cruiserweight division these days? Nobody. So it is a sad, sad exit from boxing, from the sport.
I'll never forget him. You know what I mean?
No, he brought a lot of people a lot of joy. We had a lot of good nights with David Haye. I don't hate the man. I'm just there is just this thing. Yeah, there's always just this thing about when you retire, you should go out on top, and that has never more been proven by David Haye.
But can we give him some credit? He milked that extra 12 or 30 million pounds ago. You know, fair play to him for doing it.
Incredible stuff. Yeah, incredible stuff. He's always been a clever marketing guy. He's always known how to sell a fight. That is for sure. I just, you know, it's just interesting. I think we all know that he shouldn't have come back now. But maybe he's happy with it. Maybe he's made enough money for him to not care too much. It's one of those ones. He'll have to live with it. He'll have to decide. I just hope
he'll be able to live with it.
I hope that he's not back in another 2 or 3 years.
He won't be. I think he's
trying to fight Roy Jones Jr. or something crazy.
But you know what? At least he went with his brain still intact.
The 50-year-old Bellew trilogy.
Oh dear. I mean, you know, David Haye's still got his health, hasn't he? For the most part.
That's not something I've heard. He's got
in his head.
He's got his brain. I agree. His health. Ooh, I think he'll disagree when he gets up in the morning, stiff as fuck.
Tony Bellew, I can't give him too much credit for beating a man who was falling to bitchy. I really can't. I give him credit, but you can't give him too much credit.
I can and I can't. It's just the right time and right place. But at the same time, you know, it is the curtain call. We knew that David Haye had retired. I was kind of thinking when I heard this last night, why haven't, like, I thought you'd retired already. Like, there's no point announcing your retirement. You got retired. Tony Bellew said he was going to retire you, and he did. You haven't retired. You got retired. Someone retired you. So it is kind of like...
As you can tell, he's pissed off inside because it hurts him. And he won't admit it, but it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, because he thought he was going to win that fight by knockout, the second one, even the first one, and then get the AJ fight and be a very, very rich man. But some things weren't meant to be, it seems, and now it looks like Tony Bellew might get the Andre Ward fight or some other big fight.
What? If I was Tony Bellew, I'd go straight for Tyson Fury. Why the hell not?
I would too. But we've got to talk about this, okay? Because that's actually interesting. There is no way, whilst Tyson Fury is on Frank Warren's promotional contract, that Frank Warren will let Tyson Fury make any money fighting Tony Bellew, because Frank Warren used to have Tony Bellew, and then Tony Bellew left to Sky, and Frank sued him, and they fucking hate each other. So if Frank has any involvement in that fight, I can't see it happening. That's my problem. I think after the 3-fight, 4-fight deal is over, then Tony Bellew could get Tyson Fury. But the problem is, by that point, Tony Bellew, Tyson Fury will probably be back in top shape, and it won't be a good idea for Bellew to fight him anymore. So it is a problem. I don't really see it happening unless Frank Warren just says, yeah, it can happen on Sky pay-per-view, which is so unlikely, or unless Eddie Hearn, and even if Eddie Hearn said it can happen on BT pay-per-view, I still think Tony Bellew wouldn't want to work with Frank Warren.
Well, he wouldn't, I don't.
So it's a tricky one, isn't it? I find that a tricky one. But I do agree with you. He should, if he has any chance of beating him, it's right now.
He's got to take a chance, really.
Yeah, for sure. Rocky Fielding. He's going to be fighting Tyrone Zeuger for the WBA title in July. Now, for me, Rocky Fielding's an all right fighter, and he's had some good wins of late. I just don't rate him very highly. And what Zeuger did in his last fight was quite impressive. Yeah. Who did he beat, Zeuger? Was it Paul Smith?
Yeah, but Paul Smith, I mean, come on.
Yeah, Paul Smith's not that impressive, obviously, but it's the way he did it. It's the way that Zeuger beat Paul Smith. I don't think Rocky Fielding would beat Paul Smith so easily back then, last June. Yeah, maybe. It's a hard one to judge. I think Zeuger's probably the better fighter, though. That's my feeling.
Well, quite a bit, yeah.
I think he'll probably get a late stoppage, probably 6, 7, 8, something like that. But it's a good fight, It's good to see Rocky Fielding. He's had big wins. They've been at domestic level, but he's got really no one left to fight at domestic level left. So kind of makes some sense. I'd probably look to put him in a slightly easier fight. But if you tell a fighter like Rocky Fielding they've got a world title shot, they're kind of going to say yes quite quickly, aren't they?
You've got to take it.
It's one of those things. If he somehow pulls off a knockout, he'll be a world champion. He could. Zeuger's not elite, I don't think. I just think he's better than Fielding.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say. So, yeah, that's a good fight. That's coming up in July, which is quite soon, really, for a world title fight. It's only 1 month away, 14th of July.
You've got to give credit to Eddie, haven't you?
Yeah, sure. And for Fielding for taking it, because he can't have had a full training camp with only a month out.
You notice a pattern here, developing here. All the British guys who are not quite world class seem to get title shots against this guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar thing with it's happened a lot with British guys. Paul Smith got the shot against Ward. Arthur Abraham, Martin Murray gets shots against everyone. The guys who are just below, the guys who are good enough to get to world title level but not good enough to win it, get the most shots because people know it's an easy-ish defense, but it's still a respectable win. Yeah. So it does make sense from a boxing point of view. Deontay Wilder will be sent a contract for the Anthony Joshua fight this week, says Eddie Hearn. It's come out that Deontay Wilder has accepted the offer from Eddie Hearn, agreed to the terms in principle, and now they want a contract sent over with those exact terms. It'd be interesting to see those terms. I haven't seen them. I'm not sure what Deontay Wilder's agreed to, but Eddie Hearn is saying, we've got to the bottom of it all today. One thing I can tell you is by the end of the week, Deontay Wilder will have a contract in front of him and we'll see if he's real. That puts it on Wilder because If Wilder doesn't sign now, he's going to look like a fucking muppet because he said, yes, I accept the terms already. And so if he doesn't sign this contract, he's going to look like a duck. Big style.
He needs to take it anyway. He needs to prove his worth to himself. And,
Sure. I heard some people talking smack the other day. I mean, I like Tyson Fury, but he's a fucking buffoon when it comes to Anthony Joshua. Hatred clouds his vision. He's buffoonish. He said Wilder deserves 50-50 in the AJ fight.
No, he doesn't.
And America's the biggest place to fight in the world. If your fight isn't taking place in America, it's not the biggest fight. And it's like, you've never fought in America. Oh, yeah, you have, against Craig Cunningham. Fuck off. That is ridiculous, my friend. Your world title fight was I think it was in some weird German town. It wasn't even in Berlin. And so, like, I think it was Frankfurt. I think. I'll have to look that up. But my point is, a world title fight is big wherever it's big. It doesn't need to be in America or Japan or Australia. It can just be wherever the fuck. As long as people want to go and see it, it's a big world title fight. And so, if the fight can happen in the UK, great. We can make UK the new mecca of boxing and make everybody have to come here for the big fights. So I don't like that attitude. And I thought saying that Wilder deserved 50-50 is just ludicrous. He doesn't bring the money to the table. Fury understands boxing really well, but the economic side of the game, I've heard him talk about a few times, and he either doesn't care or he just doesn't know. Because obviously it's not a 50-50 fight. And I've heard him say, like, he got paid more for the Sefer Seferi fight than he did for the Vladimir Klitschko fight. And if that's the case, that's what he said it in an interview. I actually do believe it, because Frank Warren will have had to pay a lot of money to get Tyson Fury to sign a contract.
Yeah. What was his purse for the
Tyson Fury was probably about 5-6 million, yeah. But Tyson Fury was the mandatory for that fight, so it won't have been a huge purse. It won't have been as big as fighting AJ, and it also, it's just one of those things where maybe Warren has had to give Tyson Fury 10 million to even sign a 4-fight deal, and if that's the case, then he probably did get paid a bit more for the Sefer Seferi fight. But if that is the case, then it's difficult to talk to him about economics of boxing, because he's in a weird position where he's so famous that he can get paid for fighting bums, whereas
the problem is he doesn't have the marketability of Anthony Joshua, but he should. That's the bad thing.
I think he does now. I think he does now. I think if he was to fight like Takam or Povetkin, it would do as many pay-per-views as AJ Povetkin or AJ Takam. I'm pretty sure of that now. Now, after his what's actually built his profile bigger than anything is his time out of the ring and his antics. If he'd have kept fighting, I think he'd still be. It depends on the fights that he took. But, it's an interesting one. It is an interesting one. I just wish he wouldn't talk about Anthony Joshua so much, because there is this sort of bitterness that comes across in his speech. He's sort of like...
Wouldn't you be?
No. Because Tyson Fury has every opportunity to do the exact same things Anthony Joshua's done. In fact, he had the opportunity first. He had all those belts and he wasted it. So no, he can't feel bitter to Anthony Joshua. Like, sure, someone's come along and promoted him and maybe got Anthony Joshua into a spot he doesn't deserve because he's got better marketing than ring skills. Perhaps that's true, but that's not something to be bitter about. It's something to be joyful for, because if it's true, that means you can go into the ring with him, you're better than him, and you should get paid a shit ton of money to beat him. So it should be something to be celebrated. He does often sound very bitter. I think the biggest thing is, and if someone asked him this, I think it'd definitely be true. Anthony Joshua got into the Olympic team after very shady behaviour. Tyson Fury was never allowed into the Olympic team, even when he was being a very good boy, sort of
Why
thing.
was that?
Because he was a
Oh,
gypsy.
like
There was a lot of prejudice back in that
offensive.
time. It was, yeah, there was a lot of prejudice back in that time. And I think I think he has right to be bitter about that. But like, yeah, I don't like listening to him talk. I don't like the Fury camp when they talk about Anthony Joshua. They always predict he's going to lose, even to like Charles Martin. They always put big money on him losing. And it just seems a bit, come on, guys.
Because Fury hates him, and if I was Fury, I wouldn't like Joshua either. He took my belt, so I want them back.
He didn't take the belts from Fury.
That's how he sees it.
Fury threw his own belts in a trash bin, basically. There is no other truth about that. Like, sure, the IBF belt specifically, they stripped him early of that, and AJ got that belt. Sure, I can understand that is annoying, but you don't give up on you. Like, you don't. The best thing to do about it is use it to make beef and make the fight bigger. But they don't really. They don't give AJ a lot of credit. They sort of try and shit on him, which I think doesn't help make the AJ Fury fight.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
in some ways, it's just like you should build up your opponents, not constantly bring them down. If you just say Wilder's a basketball player and AJ's a bodybuilder, then is it really that impressive when you beat them?
no, it's not. It diminishes them.
Right, that's what I mean. So it's not a smart. That's not a smart tactic. But yeah, anyway, enough of that little rant. It was just something I was thinking about and wanted to get off my chest. Were there any more news things that you wanted to bring up, bro?
I'm trying to think. Let me quickly think. God. I don't know.
No worries if not. I'll quickly go over some of the upcoming fights. Yeah, Errol Spence is in a fight on Saturday against Carlos Ocampo. Not interested in it, but I suppose it's a good enough defense.
Easy win.
Should be an easy win, exactly. Jose Zepeda, he's in a fight against Carlos Diaz Ramirez. Zepeda's a 28-1 super lightweight with his one loss coming to Terry Flanagan, funnily enough. Should be an all right fight. Biggest fight of the weekend for me, Lewis Ritson, Paul Hyland Jr. Not a huge, massive known fight, but it's a 15-0 versus an 18-0. Neither set a foot wrong. I'm leaning towards Ritson. I think his momentum is shit hot right now. But Paul Hyland Jr. also hasn't lost. Very good fight, that one. Gavin McDonald versus Stuart Hall. That's not a bad fight. If Gavin, he beat Gamal Yafai, which was a unanimous decision. If he can beat Stuart Hall, he might get himself another world title shot. It's possible. So it's a close fight, that one, for me, actually. I quite like that. Then we've got another good fight, in my opinion. Josh Kelly really stepping it up. He is fighting a guy called Chris George, 14-1, and it's for the Commonwealth welterweight title. Chris George has won a few noticeable fights. I believe, he had the Commonwealth welterweight title before against Jack Brubaker or Brubaker. I don't really know these Australians' crazy names, but it's a good fight. I expect Josh Kelly to probably demolish this guy, but a Commonwealth title fight's always a big step up.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them things. Joe Joyce is also fighting
this weekend.
This weekend, or Friday.
Who's he fighting?
Some guy from Ghana.
Oh god!
This guy's record, it's fucking awful.
Richard Latte. Latte? He's a coffee. 12-1
But
from Ghana. Every fight he's had has been in Ghana. Oh no, he fought in Switzerland one time.
right, have
He
a look
lost.
at his loss.
Oh my god, it
Have a
was
look at the guy he lost to,
yeah,
and
Ergen
look at the guy's
Merson.
record,
Yeah, he's
and look when he last fought.
Ergen Merson's 12-0.
Yeah, but then look at his record and look at the last time he fought.
Yeah,
and that would tell you something.
2014. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. It's a terrible fight. I hope it's just a stay busy fight and they'll get him in against someone else quickly. That would be good. That would be the best thing. But yeah, he should demolish this guy. He's 6'5". I mean, he's big, but he doesn't. I don't have a lot of trust for a guy who's beaten nobodies and all in a country where there's a lot of corruption in a lot of things. So.
Typical Ghanaian fighter. They
yeah,
don't
hard.
produce good heavyweights.
Sure, they've never have done, and also it's just hard to get a read on a fighter from Ghana because you just don't know their opposition. So yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know he was fighting. Who else is on that card? Is it a good card? No,
it's a pretty terrible card in my
Savannah
opinion.
Marshall. Yeah. Oh my God, Michael Venom Page. Yeah, it's not good. Let's not bother with that.
I'll be watching it, but
I'll have it on in the background. Yeah, I'll have it on in the background. And then, yeah, that really wraps it up. So we'll be back to talk about the Errol Spence fight, the Lewis Ritson fight, Gavin McDonald, Josh Kelly. Come join us for that next week. And yeah, that's pretty much everything. If you've got anything you want to say, Nathan, get it in. Or forever.
Speak now,
yeah.
Hold your peace.
Yeah. That's exactly where I was going with that as well, man. Cool. Right. Peace out, viewers. Have a good rest of the week, and we'll see you here next week.